that away from him. All right.
Sorry.
I am really excited. We have a great webinar for you guys today. It's DC Mania 2026, which is kind of exciting. We're here in the great Northeast, and I can't believe we all made it in. I know that Gail dug her way out to get here. Yes, she did. So this is pretty exciting. We're going to be talking about strength, stretch, and recovery. And that's going to be the webinar for today. We're going to talk about different evidence-based research on strength training, mobility, stretching, recovery work, etc. And it's basically the focus is how do we improve performance and also create durable and sustainable joints. And we're going to talk about some of the studies and the resilience and independence and stuff like that. All right. Now I'm going to introduce you guys. I'm going to start with Gail. Our beautiful Gail is at the end, who just finished teaching our personal training certification and also does our stretching and recovery certification. Gail is pretty cool because she's the flexibility specialist and core yoga and Pilates coach for the New York Jets. And she's also the owner of Bannister Method Studio. And do you manage 6 Crunch? Or is it
now?
It's 7 now? They won't leave you alone, will they? No, they're never going to leave you alone. And she also works with highly credentialed professional athletes, NFL, NBA, NHL. I'm not even looking at her, what she's doing, MLB. So this is pretty exciting. We've also got right next to her, we've got Brendan Fox, all the way from Canada. It's too bad that they lost the hockey Olympic game, but that's okay, right?
We let you in.
And honors. My son knows the Hughes brothers, so it's kind of cool. So he's an honors kinesiology graduate and head of education for the Exercise Therapy Association. He's got 30,000 hours of experience, including serving Team Canada's kinesiologists at the Torino Olympics, and he now trains fitness professionals to help their clients live pain-free. Awesome. And then we've got Master Phil Ross, who's in the middle. This is now turned into my best friend. I love it because you email him, oh my gosh, you get a response. It's fabulous. He's very professional. He's a 9th degree black belt and a master blade wielder. He's my friend. If I get nervous in the city, he's the one I'm going with. It's in martial arts and fitness expert specializing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and KC. He's a published author, a professor at the American Public University Systems, and has a master's in sports and exercise science. So we're excited that we have Master Phil with us right here. We've also got Evans, now I can never pronounce it, Armstrong. Arm-man trading. Oh, I'll never forget that. That's great. He's a USAF veteran and a founder and CEO of CNU Fit. He leads Kent County's top personal training studio. He's helped over 3,500 clients improve their health by building he built a multiple $1-million fitness business. He launched CNU Stretch to certify over 100 certification coaches and partners with gyms nationwide to deliver profitable stretch therapy programs. So this is really cool. We have a real variety of professionals here. I'm Sarah Cooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW. I have a law degree and I can count to 8 backwards. Okay, so that's my claim to fame. I'm a group fitness instructor. So we're going to start, since Brendan has the microphone right there. What does the latest research say about how strength training supports joint health and longevity?
That is exactly what I was planning on asking Gail Bannister. I'm just kidding. Okay, so what I do is I'm the kind of guy that will simplify the complex. All right. So here's basically what the research is saying on this kind of stuff when it comes to cartilage. I call them tissue truths when it comes to the tissue. So your cartilage is kind of like a friend that shows up to parties asking for where's the snacks, but never brings any. So the cartilage does not have its own blood supply. Okay, so a lot of times people have bad joints, and it's not that you need to avoid doing anything for them, They're not bad joints, they're hungry joints. So we need to move for them, okay? The other thing is, with all the research involving tendons, your tendons are kind of like a suspicious cat, okay? You don't want to grab it with great intensity or it's going to bite you. So you make friends with it the way you would with a suspicious cat. You know, you show up slowly, consistently, gradually increase the pressure, still they start purring. All right, yeah. And then, exactly. Muscles and ligaments, the research on that is it's kind of like high school French. You don't use it, you lose it. I only remember cow and duck in French. Actually, I forget which one's which. But that's how the muscles and joints work. So too little is going to lead to degeneration. And then progressive loading, the research on progressive loading related to all of this, it's kind of like sun exposure. So you wouldn't hide out in your basement all winter and then go spend 6 hours out in the sun basking like a lizard on the first sunny day. So a lot of times with people, when they've got issues with their tendons going on, it's because they're sunburned. They didn't respect tolerance and slowly building up to it. So for my clients, I just kind of integrate these kinds of principles in, and that's applying all the latest research relating to it. But I always put things into memorable analogies rather than trying to fool people by trying to sound smart, which I'm not. So I just come up with silly things to make them laugh that have little nuggets of truth in them. But if you want a smart answer, talk to any of these. Yeah, okay, Phil. If you want anybody, just Phil. Who's our smart guy?
We're gonna give it to Phil.
Okay, Phil. Yeah.
Okay, Phil. So what does the latest research say about, about how strength training supports joint health and longevity? The value of strength training.
The value of strength training cannot be underestimated at all. One of the things that we found recently is that the strength training is actually more beneficial than cardio for longevity. And my whole mantra with what I do and the Body Belt method is to help people live better longer. How do we do that? Strength training. You know, the old studies were saying that people in their 60s couldn't get stronger. That is nonsense. 100% unmitigated nonsense. I have a 75-year-old client, started training with me about a year and change ago. He's doing weighted Turkish get-ups.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
well, you got to explain that for some people.
Okay.
Weighted Turkish get-ups.
Turkish get-up.
Show us.
Should I show?
Sure.
Okay.
She loves that.
Yeah, but you got.
All right, here he is. Oh, I can explain. I can do the play-by-play. Okay, so we got Phil. He's laying down here. All right, he's gonna have his.
Sure, brought a kettlebell with me.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's say we have a kettlebell.
Yep. So he's imagining he's got a kettlebell. He's hugging it like a little teddy bear there. Yep. One leg straight out. Now he pushes it straight up overhead.
Karate chop the floor.
Yeah.
Roll to the elbow.
Okay, he's rolling to the elbow.
Roll to the palm.
Roll to the palm.
Boom. I have my elbow.
Slide the knee underneath.
Hip hinge.
Hip
Underneath.
hinging up. Tall.
Lunge. Stand.
Standing up. So
Slap the leg so I know which one to stand backward.
that's new. Okay. Kind of fun.
Slide the hand. Behind the belt. Hold. Hold. Back down and roll.
Got it?
Yeah. Basically working everything.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
And that's because you started them strength training.
yes.
You don't have them do that immediately.
Oh, no.
You
we built-
develop, yeah.
Yes, we build to it. But, you know, if I went by, if I abided by conventional knowledge, I would have never tried that. But I started with a get up, sit up, which is kind of like sometimes people call it a half get up. And with the core strengthening, and we built to that.
And you build to that.
Yes.
It's that's really interesting because I've been doing a lot of reading and research on low rep, high weight,
Yep.
because we've got programs like Zumba Lift, which is really like a lower weight, high rep, or you've got Les Mills Heavy, which is the high weight, lower rep, reversing it. So I always wonder about that. I know I'm looking at all these guys, I'm a little scared, and I've always been scared of Gail, but I like the lower weight, higher rep. And I've been looking at some research for that.
Well, one of the things with going too low weight is that people say, oh gosh, I want to get the form. I want to learn the form. As soon as I know that a client is safe, I'm going to jack them up with the weight because form improves with greater weight. They have to do it properly. So, and the cool thing is you don't even have to really think about the aerobics. What I've done is I knew this all along, but what I've been doing is tracking the biometrics of my workouts. And with the kettlebell workouts and body weight, I found that the anaerobic benefits almost equal. So my heart rate is going up, my VO2 is being worked when I'm doing my kettlebell sessions.
So you're talking about how it relates to cardio. And when and I, just to play devil's advocate, because that's why we have a panel here, because you're wrong. Now, because I know.
Degree black belt.
I know. I'm a little nervous, but Evans is going to protect me. I'm okay. So we've got, but I look at this low rep. I look at the low rep, the high weight, and I'm looking at my age. I'm looking at being a woman. I'm looking at the research from 2017 to 2023 that has documented that if you do a lower weight at a higher rep, you get the same amount of strength training, and you get the same by the research I'm documenting, same amount of strength training, and you also get a little bit more endurance. You do get, if you use a higher weight, you'll get a little bit more strength than you would if you use a low rep, but the risk of injury was actually far less because it's a lower weight. But I like what you said, because if I'm doing like 10 and then I do 15 and I do 20 and I start looking around here, you're right, I may lose my form. But there are benefits to both, is what has been documented.
Well, I'm not going to really disagree, but I will say this, that every body is different and every body is different. Everyone's going to respond a little bit differently to the exercise. So, you know, you have your basic program, and then what you do is you tweak it to the goals and to the body of the client, and how they respond to it.
Right, and it's not just how they respond to it physically, it's also how they respond to it emotionally.
Yes.
Am I gonna have more fun, let's say at a Zumba lift program, than I might have at a Les Mills heavy program? I'm a big fan of body pump. So, but it's a little bit lower weight, higher rep.
Well, let me ask you this. How cool is it? Pick something heavy up, put it over your head.
I have 4 sons. It's not that cool. I'm like, Evans, I'm gonna shoot over to you. So, yeah, please do. Go ahead.
So most of my clients actually, you know, my gyms, we specialize in people who are over 40 years old. So things that, you know, we're talking about this idea of longevity. We have tons of clients in their 50s, 60s, 70s. And so strength is critical at this age, because I know you don't want to use big words in Canada, but
Thank you.
is a real thing, you know.
Right.
So sarcopenia is this loss of muscle tissue as we age. And not only do we lose muscle tissue, we also lose strength. This impacts quality of life. So why do people go to nursing homes? It's because they can't do daily activities because they don't have the strength to do that. It also affects confidence and quality of life. In America, we're aging and we're living longer, so we have to ensure that we have the strength to maintain the quality of life that we desire. So you guys are in this debate between low reps and high weight and all these kind of things, but no one defined what is low, what is high. You know, so the idea, like we teach our clients when they first start off, we just use simple things like the rate of perceived exertion. Maybe in your first 2 weeks, it's a scale from 1 to 10 for those who are not familiar. 10 is like I could not do another rep. 5 is like a warm up. So we're going to train most people at around a 7 or 8. It allows them to be sustainable, it allows them to be safe, allows them to recover. And as we talk about like what does the research show, it says that hey, for those who strength train 30 to 60 minutes on a weekly basis, they're going to increase their lifespan by 10 to 17%. And we're not just looking at lifespan, but also looking at health span. And today, a common term used is play span. So people don't just want to be alive. Health span is disease free. They still want to play pickleball. They still want to travel. They still want to go hiking. And strength training gives them the tissues, the strength, and the resilience to do that. The last thing I'm going to say with is this idea between muscle and cardio. And I too am going to disagree a little bit. And clearly, if you look at me, I lift heavy things, right? You know, so, but building, you have to still put that cardiovascular load specifically on your heart for a longer period of time to decrease risk for cardiovascular disease. So we're not talking about the physical aesthetics. Yes, I like to lift heavy things, but I still need to move my heart at a certain tempo consistently to prevent disease processes.
Interesting. Gail, Gail.
Let me just
Oh, no, Gail. Let him go.
So I'm gonna take it back a little bit, and I'm gonna agree with pretty much everyone at the table. You have to strength train. If you have, I'm gonna use a knee replacement because I have it. 90 days prior to my surgery, I had to do strength training.
So Gail got a knee replacement.
Double.
Both knees replaced. So they had her pre-train the
Correct.
3 months before
Correct.
strength training.
Strength training, squats, lunges, weights up, because the recovery coming out would be quick. And that's what it is. Now, the reason why Sarah said what she did, and I'm backing Sarah up a little bit, we're music driven in the last 4 years. Even reformers now dancing on reformers. And that's high intensity, high reps, but you're not getting the benefit of it. Because if you're getting into surgery, the first thing your doctor's going to say, you need to get a personal trainer to get back to strength training, because those high reps are not building muscle visually. It should be that. So for me, going into surgery, I was up and moving the same day. I was up and walking upstairs. My recovery was a lot quicker. So strength training is important for women over 60, and we have to do that. Less reps and go max. For me, when I train women, it's usually 30 seconds on. Everybody's body is different. If you give me 5 reps, give me your max perceived exertion to bring it in. And I'm glad you said that, because spinning used to talk about perceived exertion, and now they don't talk about it at all because they're dancing on the bike with no resistance. And if we can just go back to strength training the way it was, you'll find better results. And we do need to go back now.
Okay, Phil.
So when we're talking about the cardio component, I'm not saying do not do cardio.
Right.
Okay, just let's make that clear.
Right.
You
Right.
need cardio, but you can also get it by swinging kettlebell.
Right.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Right, you can get that by and maintaining an exercise program and when you look at the higher rep, lower weight, it's not that we're just gonna do it and have fun with it. You still have to go to failure. And that would be the goal. Failure would not mean poor posture and alignment. Failure would mean I can't do anymore. I'm done here. So for me, instead of going in and going straight to a heavier weight and saying how, do 5 of these, do 6 of these, I may want to do 20 at a lower weight, but knowing as soon as my posture goes, I'm done. I'm stopping. It's all about the failure. These are some research that was put together by the Mayo Clinic. So that's where I pulled it from.
Yeah, you don't want to go in there and just start banging out heavy weights. You want to obviously build to that.
Okay, so now I've got a question. I'm gonna switch a little bit. I'll come back, but I'm gonna switch a little bit to stretching, static versus dynamic. I know, Brendan, you love to demonstrate things like this. Liz, I think it's you. Here he
I'll
goes.
say yes to anything. What
Okay,
are you
but
asking me to do?
it's static versus dynamic stretching. When should each be used in programming and why? Let's do the microphone.
Yes. So dynamic stretching, you want to think of it like coffee. It's going to wake you up and get you ready. So we do that in the beginning. Dynamic stretching is like a rehearsal of the movements you're about to do. Okay. Static stretching is like chamomile tea. It's going to calm things down. Now, generally, I would do static stretching at the end for long-term flexibility gains. Okay. But in the beginning, you may want some chamomile tea on some overactive muscles if you got an imbalance. Like if you feel like, oh, I got a lot of tension on this side, you can balance out the tension with static stretching in advance. Okay. But also like really full range of motion strength training. I think that's like a smoothie. It's got all the benefits. It's going to give you all the nutrients are in there. It can give you lots of range of motion benefits, but also strength and even cardio and everything else. And then we got PNF stretching as well, is really good for maximum range of motion. So I'll use that to enhance that long term. That's kind of like water, right? It's just it gets you more range. I mean, water's all over the planet. Okay, so that's the way I'm linking them all to beverages. All right, but that's how I apply them all. Are you taking notes? Good. He's
No,
like,
no, he's-
chamomile tea. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you please, I'm gonna pass it over to Gail. Okay, and Gail, we talked about PNF, the proprio neuromuscular facilitation, the benefits of that, the benefits of static and dynamic, and the versatility.
When would I use PNF?
Yeah.
It could be
Well, why don't we also, somebody's gotta like,
demonstrated again.
well, it's just, I don't know, without laying on the ground and like grabbing my own hamstring. If I was laying supine, what I would do is push, like trying to push my leg down against my hand.
Isometric.
And then I would then release it, try to stretch it more. And as I push against the arm,
Yeah.
and then I can stretch and release it more. I'm not gonna get down to the ground.
No, so dynamic,
Yeah.
we would use before sports to get them warmed up. And
Right,
get them there. And then afterwards, the recovery would be the PNF, or it could be the flexibility part of it for the restorative part of it. I want to say this now, you can't go deep on stretching if the client has a game the next day. You can make them sore, so you have to know when to monitor it, you have to know when to add in the PNF, because you don't want to leave them sore, you want to give them an active stretching, including a dynamic stretching. My brain is running right now for the next day of competition.
well, and it's kind of like when you go in to get a massage
Right.
and you get a really deep massage, you wake up the next morning,
sore.
you are sore. So it's kind of like
So,
that.
right, so if one of my clients are coming in on a Tuesday and they're playing a Saturday, I'll go in deep on them, because they have 4 days of recovery. And sometimes they'll come back in on Friday just to do the restorative part of it, which is more full of water, as he calls it, a flowy kind of stretching.
Okay.
But so when I work with the Jets, Tuesday's the deep work, Friday, Saturday's recovery, for Sunday, because that's game time.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Evans, I know you were taking notes. Let's
Yeah.
throw it over this way.
So, couple things, the questions between dynamic and static, and I agree, with the thought process. For me, I'm not doing much static stretching before activity because, one thing we have to consider, and I guess I'll walk it back a little bit with my journey. I started, stretching initially, to help my client. I had a client came in, you could tell her cortisol levels were really high. So we're like, hey, let's just do a light workout. We did that for about a week, but she's in tax season, she's a CPA. So the next week was just as bad. So I said, let's do another light week. I did it in bodybuilding, right? You recover really well. And she was like, I'm not paying this money for light weeks. Can we do the stretches we do at the end of the session for the session? I understand how muscles work, right? Muscles move bones through joints. So we go the opposite way to stretch. And I would never use those techniques before because I was only looking at her from a mechanical standpoint. Later, as we went through the years, we start learning about fascia and we start learning about the nervous system. And so if I do static stretching pre-workout, what it will do is down-regulate the nervous system. So I don't want to do that and then tell the nervous system take on load because that increases risk for injury or doesn't maximize the workout. So I will do, more, as you said, active isolated stretches where I'll hold it for 1 to 3 seconds. And that allows me to get that sense of the static that you're looking for. And I can add reps to it and get a deeper and deeper stretch every time. Because not only am I communicating to the musculoskeletal system and the fascial system, but I'm also incorporating the nervous system in there. And even with this idea of full range of motion strength training, that's assuming the person has full range, right? Because as we see our clients many times, there's compensation patterns, and so they can't get through the full range. So we just, so stretching is a way to unlock that before they, go into that component. When it comes to PNF, I love PNF for athletes. I do not love PNF for general pop. And the reason why is this concept of kinesthetic awareness. As an athlete, you know what it means to go full out, and you know what it means to control your strength. But if you haven't been training for a while and you're not familiar with how much power you have, you can hurt yourself by pushing against my arm or stiff, resistance. So for me, I don't like to do that initially. I may do a muscle activation where I have a gentle load and ask you to slowly push my hand to the ground as you're building that kinesthetic awareness. So there's a couple thoughts with it. I'm a huge fan of most stretch therapy or stretch techniques. In there is just identifying what's the appropriate dose for the situation.
Any type of stretching is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
As Gail said, any type of stretching is great. Phil?
Well, for the most part, I'm going to agree with everyone, especially when I'm doing strength training, starting with the dynamic stretching, and then do most of my, either PNF or static afterwards. But, what I found when I was leading the martial arts classes, I tried to do that, not stretching before. It didn't work well. It did not work well. I was doing all the reading on the research and so forth. It says, oh yeah, it's gonna, harm your performance, blah, 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 blah. It was terrible. So during the martial arts classes, we stretch, and we also employ another tactic called ballistic stretching. But you have to be completely warmed for
Correct.
ballistic stretching, even attempting. But as far as the other ones go, I'm down with it. I like the dynamic stretching to begin with, to mimic the movements and get the body flowing, grease the joints and so forth. And then also get into my mobility work prior to that. But we're gonna get more into that one.
Yeah, we will. We're going to talk about the difference of mobility and flexibility. And I really agree with you about I'm a skier. So I go out and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stand there and stretch. I got to get on the chairlift. I got to get up the mountain. I like to do we always start with we always start with a very easy run. And we all have to look at each other like, don't overdo it. And the ski instructor, I've worked with the same ski instructor for years. And she always looks at me, we're going to go down the mountain slow. I'm like, okay, I'll control myself. And it's the best thing. And you slowly increase your range of motion. And then at the end of the day, when you're exhausted and you don't want to stretch out, you have to stretch out because it makes the difference. Now, somebody share with me why that helps so much doing that stretch at the end of the workout. Gail, Brendan, whatever, the mic's over there.
Well, it also helps for recovery the next day when you're stretching, you get all the fluids moving,
Okay.
especially at night before you go to bed, because you gotta keep in mind, go to sleep for 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, depending on who you are. Some people 2 hours, but it just allows the body when you're resting to all the fluids to move and be able to hydrate for the next day. You have to stretch. It's just one of those things. Do I do it? Are you supposed to stretch the night before I go to bed? Probably not. But you're coming off a slope. Definitely. Ankles, mobility, your boots. Those
Yeah.
ankles are locked in those boots for 8 hours. Just that alone, just pointing and rotating your ankles is great. The snowboards are worse because they're definitely at a different angle and their hips are offline where they're doing the snowboarding coming down the slope. So they need to stretch as well. But yeah, definitely great to stretch the night before, especially at rest.
Okay, good. Any other contributions there?
Actually, yes. Yeah, what it does, it helps to reduce the DOMS or delayed onset of muscle soreness.
Okay.
And in addition to that, the blood will pool in the muscles if you're working them very hard. So you want to get that flowing, flush the system, and hydration is critical as well.
Okay, excellent.
We do have a last
Yes,
question if
yes.
anybody's interested.
What? Yeah, sure. Question.
Lisa asks, can you do a quick demo of the stretch types, especially dynamic and ballistic?
Okay, Lisa wants to know.
I'll do it.
All right.
I'll do the ballistic.
You do the ballistic.
Okay, Phil is Lisa wants to know, what is the difference between dynamic stretching, static stretching, PNF? Can you demonstrate? So Phil, what are you gonna demonstrate right
It's a
now?
ballistic stretch.
This is a ballistic stretch. So here he goes. All right. Just, and you're gonna do that when during your warm up?
I'll do it after I've warmed up.
He'll do it after he warms up. Okay, now what's a dynamic stretch?
Dynamic stretch?
Yeah.
That would be something like this. I'm gonna mimic the movement.
He's mimicking the movement, but he's doing it a little bit lighter and a little bit slower.
And it's not making contact.
And he's not making contact with anyone, so he's not working as much on like the deceleration or eccentric of the contraction there. Okay, and then now we want to look at PNF. I think, Gail, you want to? Gail's done. Yeah.
All right. Gail.
You making
Go
Gail
ahead.
move, this poor woman.
Gail, we
While they
have,
set up really quick.
we have a
he was
PNF
doing-
pro here.
All right.
While they're setting up, if he was doing,
Okay, you guys listen. Go ahead.
while they set up, if he was doing a ballistic, the dynamic of it would have been not as high as a kick. It might have been a leg swing, so it could be the same motion, just not at the same amount of intensity of that motion. Just so you can see like It's the same movement pattern, but ballistic is a higher intensity of that movement.
So you're saying dynamic would have been slower, softer,
It's a
reduced
leg
range
swing.
of motion,
So he would have been doing like a leg swing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adding a better balance for it. And then for his ballistic, that's when he's going to go for his high kick.
Yeah, ballistic will be the high kick. Okay, and here we go with PNF.
Back by me, you're good.
I'm good. I don't have anything.
All right, bend your knee. You want to talk me through it?
Okay, cool. So you're going to lift your right leg.
Bend your knees a little bit closer. Okay, get your right leg up.
And then now when she reaches her end of range, when it reaches his end of range motion,
Which is right about here, keeping the legs.
That means she can't push any further without him maybe lifting his hips up or sacrificing his alignment. And he just doesn't have any further hamstring stretch
So the
capability.
one thing I will add on is that right about here, his fascia has stopped me. So this is where I'm gonna work from. Most people try to push past it. I'm feeling him right now and I'm feeling, okay, he's tighter right about here. So this is where the pain is coming. So I'm gonna say to him gently, hewing wise, pull your hips down to the floor, start there, relax. And then he's gonna move again. And we're gonna do that again. Pull your hips down to the floor and relax. That's 1. 2, gently push me back. And I haven't added my hands yet. And relax. Gonna move. One more thing. Now he's moving. Pull your hips down to the floor again and push on me at the same time. Let go. And we're moving. Do that one
You're
more time.
moving. So he's pushing against Gail as if to push Gail backwards.
Right.
And then when he releases,
moves.
then she's got the ability to keep the proper alignment
Correct.
and stretch the hamstring a bit.
Correct.
Why does that work?
It's just the muscles are lengthening and releasing and lengthening. It's like dough, right? Lengthening, release. The fascia is also letting go. Right now he's comfortable because right now, can you hold this for me? We started here.
Right now, she started
and
there
look where he's
and
at.
then she pushes up and look at the distance.
So the
She
icing-
moved about almost 8 inches.
So the icing and the cake now is that I can actually.
Now the
flex
icing
this
on thank you,
Flex
you,
the-
Evans.
I can flex right now and pull down, which adds a huge Achilles stretch all the way down to the calf. I'm gonna bring it back up and I'm gonna add a little bit more and it just moves a bit more.
It moves
Pull
even
it back.
further.
Take it out. I'm gonna go further in.
And
Ta-da.
look at where now she can start.
Ta-da, and that's where we are.
Yeah,
And then from here.
I believe.
that's fantastic.
And
That's
where he is
fantastic.
here feels the same way it felt
Yeah.
at that first point where she started.
Oh, you have to stay down there. Keep doing
I
that stuff.
realize I'm down here for the rest.
Keep doing that stuff. But it really, now I'm gonna ask you another thing, and Evans, maybe you know the answer. Keep working them.
So this one-
Okay,
The nice thing about this is that once you release one leg, the other leg goes
quicker, further,
quicker,
faster.
further, faster.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like, oh, I'm getting this done. Now let me just relax.
yeah.
Because everything just starts. The fascia goes, oh, we're getting this down. We're getting that down. So this leg tends to be releasing quicker. What I do as a flexibility, I don't know if you do that. When a client says to me, it's my right leg, I actually stretch the opposite side first. Because they tend to favor that side because it's hurting. I
Uh-huh.
tend to start on the better side first. And then when I get that relaxed, then I go to the other side.
It's interesting. They talk about that it's ideokinetics. That it's basically your brain says, I can move this far, so then it'll go to the other side. And that's where it's I'm jumping topics here, but I want to go back to you guys. They've been doing a lot of research with AI, saying it's much more effective to get a personal trainer that's AI, that's a computer that the two of you control yourselves. Okay, be careful. I don't want you to slip off the edge. Okay, but AI, a computer can evaluate your posture, check your alignment, and work you out. But the reality is they can't touch you. They can't touch you. They can't feel the tension. They can't push back. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and they can't cue you, effectively. So, the idea is AI will tell you to do things, but we're kind of setting pressures, right? So I could say, hey, push your hips back. Oh, you tell 10 people to do that, it looks different for everybody. But if I touch your ASIS and gently push back.
Don't be touching me.
Yeah, then, yeah, she's on fire tonight.
Later.
Then we can get those hips to go back. So
Right.
Yeah, AI is a great tool, I think, and if we don't evaluate, continually to elevate ourselves as trainers, you're going to be replaced. That's not a question. I've seen messages where people are like, "Hey, I just used AI, increased my program, and I lost 30 pounds." And so, as a trainer, we shouldn't be intimidated with AI, but we have to have the knowledge to go, how can I apply data specifically to this person to add value to them, and not just be like, "Oh, AI is bad."
Right, and use it as a tool.
Correct.
As a tool. Now I got another question for you. All right, so I'm gonna do PNF stretching. I love it personally. I think it works really well. Takes me a little bit further and it's not as scary as ballistic. I can't do ballistic because I have a bad back. How long is my PNF flexibility gonna last?
Great question. And I think it starts at genetics, right? So flexibility begins with genes. Some people are just naturally more flexible than others. But typically, providing that the person is doing regular movement, they can keep that for about a week or so. And over time, so a week initially at how do you say, at feedback point. So she stretched him. If she went through a full session, he can keep that for about a week and then he's going to reset. The reason why is this idea of neuroplasticity. His brain has wired a certain way to move consistently over time. But if she continually gives him feedback, it says it takes about 12 weeks for it to happen. Then eventually he'll keep that range of motion, providing that he's not compensating around an injury or something else.
Exactly, he's doing that.
Correct.
And how much
Yes.
activity he's doing that week. I look at that and I think also with the mobility, I look at something like yoga. And I say, how long am I gonna retain this flexibility? And how far can I go and how far should I go?
It's always based on the activity of the athlete. So you got a football player, track athletes are one of those people too. They're moving every day, they're training every day, they're strength training. So if you're dealing with a high school, college kid, they're back in there in a week. Right, you're prepping them. But if it's somebody who's just generally working out a day-to-day client, they can hold them for 2 weeks. Because they may just be working out twice a week and they're doing cardio that helps to maintain it as well. So definitely, I would say it depends on the high profile of that person and what their activity is for that week or what they do.
And Gail, since you have the microphone, I'm gonna stick with you for a little bit. How do mobility training and flexibility training differ? Because mobility seems to be a really strong buzzword right now.
It's a buzzword, but I think it's just as parallel as flexible. Am I right, guys? Would you say about the same thing?
Yeah.
I put them together.
Okay,
I definitely put like walking lunges mobility, right? But it helps with the flexibility at the same time with the person. They're not flexible to do a walking lunge. I'm not doing that. But I think they work hand in hand.
yeah, and it's interesting. I see a different it's just a sexy word right
It's a
now.
sexy word.
It's one of the words
I
we're
do
seeing here at
mobility training.
MANIA. Mobility.
Always been
Yeah.
doing mobility work. Walking lunges, mobility. Step ups. They're always doing go.
I think mobility is just.
Whoa, hold it a little bit.
Sorry.
Whoa,
All right.
hello.
I think mobility is just flexibility version 2.0. Okay, so flexibility is like shampoo, mobility is like conditioner. Really, the flexibility will clean up your range of motion that you can get into. All right, shampoo goes on first, cleans the hair. All right, but the mobility helps you to control within that range of motion. So it makes things nice and smooth, like conditioner in your hair, right? So they both serve a time and a place. Like flexibility is just all about can you get into it. Mobility is all about can you control in that range. So I look at it as it's just semantics.
Okay.
Because oftentimes when people say flexibility, they mean mobility and vice versa. But if you really had to break it down, that's what I would say.
Okay.
Sexy word.
Sexy word. Phil, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna actually break it down. So flexibility is the stretchiness of a muscle.
Yes.
How stretchy that muscle is. And then I would consider mobility the range of motion of a joint. And they do work hand in hand. You have to work both of them. They're both important. Is one more important? I don't think so. I think you need flexibility and mobility, but I do believe they should be grouped together. And one is the stretchiness of the muscle, and the other one is the range of motion of the joint.
And how would you train them differently? Because you're working with jujitsu and with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. My son is a trainer, is a jujitsu dude. I don't know what he is. He's a bioinformatics PhD, but he does jujitsu because I think he might be frustrated. Who knows? But he needs to stay flexible and he needs to be mobile.
I will tell you this, I do mobility prior to flexibility.
Okay.
Because when I'm doing the mobility, what does that also do? Helps warm me up.
Right,
Then you can go into your stretching after that. To lengthen
Right.
the muscle.
Mobility is also.
oh wait, Gail,
Mobility is also, is almost like dynamic.
Yes.
yeah, like a
Yes.
dynamic stretch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much, mobility, dynamic, stretch.
okay, and Evans, talk to me about the joint mobility and how important that is.
It's huge. So mobility is all about joint actions, you know, so, if you think of old school hip cars, shoulder cars that control articular rotation, right? It's how much can that joint move in there? So if you're training them, as you talk about separately, what you're looking at flexibility is how much can I move that muscle? The muscle, the fascia, all that stuff is the flexibility side. But if I'm thinking about mobility training, I'm thinking about control and I'm thinking about strength, So can I control that movement through the joint motion? So you'll see sometimes where someone is hypermobile, meaning their joints can move beyond the normal AMA recommendations and the restrictions. You still have to do mobility training with that person because they don't have a lot of control or stability. That's another better word, stability and control through the joint action. So for most times, people do use it, like Gail says, intertwine. It's like, hey, this is this. For us, though, most of our scope is going to be on the flexibility side if we're talking about stretching, like partner assisted stretching. And then mobility work would be independent if the person's doing it themselves.
Okay.
Anything else goes outside of our scope. That's like a chiropractor fixing the joint placement. That's not within our scope.
Right, okay, now, gonna elaborate a little bit on that. When do we integrate the mobility training and the flexibility training into our strength training? And I ask you this because sometimes I decide I'm gonna do strength training and I'm doing a bunch of tricep work and I like my music, I like my Netflix. I don't even know how many I've done. I try to go heavier, but I'm doing a little hyper, more higher rep. I put it down and then I'm going to do my tricep stretch. Do I wait until I'm completely done with my workout? What does the research say? Or do I do my tricep stretch after I do that and then I'll go straight into doing bicep curls or sit-ups or bridges or working another part of the body? So when do I integrate my mobility exercises and when do I integrate my flexibility?
So for me, I'm going to start with mobility and flexibility. I'm going to start with, getting a little bit of mobility in there. So if I'm working a bigger muscle, because the triceps only here. So let's say I'm
my
working my
triceps are
lats.
enormous.
I know, I don't want to be intimidated. So let's say I'm working my chest, right? My chest is, it inserts right in my humerus. So I'm going to go through the shoulder joint. So I'm going to do some mobility work. I'll do all kinds of things to open up my chest. That's my mobility work, right? And
All
then,
right, I'm going to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
You do the mobility work because if my range of motion is bigger, I can integrate and utilize more muscle fibers. So I'm going to get a better workout and a more expansive workout.
Correct.
Okay.
And I decrease my risk
Mobility.
for injury because if I don't have that range of motion that I'm looking for, I'll compromise and I'm going to get hurt. Right. So
Right.
I'll do that mobility work before I work out. Then I'm going to do strength training. And you think about there's only so much ATP, there's so much energy I have to use. So I don't want to waste my time and drop my heart rate doing a bunch of stuff. Now, I do a heavy lift, I may get a little mini stretch in there, but I'm really going to do my flexibility work after I do my strength side, but sometimes it's just kind of like we'll lose some of that lactic acid. I'll do a quick, stretch. I may go into the dynamic stretches at that point. But when I think like I'm really leaning into my flexibility work, I'm going to go to the static, the PNF, those kind of AIS type stretches at that point.
Right. And that really helps, just anecdotally. If I do my flexibility work at the end, I just feel better the next day.
Yeah, it's like a
I,
nice
and
hug.
like, yeah, exactly. And what Phil said was, I'm flushing it out. I'm flushing out my lactic acid, which hopefully makes room for, like Brendan said, I gotta hydrate.
Correct.
I gotta hydrate. Maybe not with
Take credit
shampoo,
for that. I didn't
but
say
maybe
that. I
with
didn't
some
say-
chamomile tea. There we go.
Like,
Gail said hydrate. Okay. That's interesting. And what role does fascia play in all this? Who wants to dive on that one?
I'll go first and then pass it
Okay,
on.
okay.
It plays a role in everything. So fascia is surrounding all your muscles, your tissues, your joints, and everything. And it's more than just a saran wrap around your tissues. But fascia is this communication network. So, Bill Parisi, he's recently put out some stuff and he talks about how he's able to train these athletes to explode and hold more power by training their fascia to move in a certain way. We know the research shows if you sit for long periods of time or you don't move, your body grows more fascia to hold you. So fascia is this trainable tissue that can help with movement and help with stability. So it plays a huge role in all movement. Even when she did the PNF stretch in the beginning, she said, I stopped when I felt his fascia restrict. The reality is he didn't feel a stretch yet
Mhm.
because his muscles didn't get stretched, but the fascia is holding it. So if you
It's
can hold this
very,
for me real quick.
it's very protective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The way I try to explain to people is, you look at my potential here and I can go, but if I put a tight jacket on, I can't lift my arm, right?
right.
It's not has nothing to do with my muscles, my shoulders, my joints, anything. It's fascia. But then also, let's say I'm jacked up and I'm feeling some problems in my shoulder, I can pull somewhere else and clean it up because fascia connects throughout the entire body.
Mm.
So it's not as
And
an
that's why-
isolated piece.
That's why when you see your chiropractor, and you're like, my shoulder's killing me, and they start working on your hip, you're like, what are you doing? I talked about my shoulder. He said, well, you're out of whack, you're imbalanced. And when I think of fascia, I know you said saran wrap, I think of like like a chicken breast, like you can just just see that
You pull the
clear.
skin back.
Really,
Mhm.
yeah, that's like my tricep. That's
It's like a
just like my
banana.
tricep.
If you crack open a banana, all
Yeah.
those little things. So some of it's stiff, some of it moves a lot of. Your IT band, that's fascia, but it doesn't move. And then other tissues move. A bunch. So,
And, all right, and I'm jumping here again, but like IT band, if someone says, cross your leg behind and reach your arm over and you're stretching your IT band. And I'm go, what?
No, you're
I'm
not.
not
No, you're
you're not
not.
stretching your IT band, you're stretching your oblique, you're stretching.
your TFL.
Yeah, but but I can roll out my IT band.
Yeah, you can roll it
I
out.
can
That's
roll it.
painful.
Yeah, it's very painful. What's the benefit of
I
that?
don't know.
Okay.
For me, I would be loosening up my TFL. I'd be working on my vastus lateralis. I'll be working on my bicep femoris. I'll be working on, some of my calves, everything that's around that region to create
Right.
range. But, your IT band can hold like 2,000 PSI. Like you're not really making much of a difference except for irritating your nervous system. But you can work all the muscles around it and you'll feel it. And so we have people who come in with IT band syndrome, right? And
What is that? What is
that's
IT band?
it's an inflammation that they feel. Typically,
Uh-huh.
it's like in their hip, but we just called it that, and now medical calls it an IT band syndrome. But the reality is, they feel this pain, or typically it's on the lateral side of their hip.
Yeah.
Really, what it is that their TFL is overactive. And once we loosen that TFL and loosen the quads, they don't have that problem anymore.
Interesting.
So yeah, but fascia plays a huge role in everything. And some of the restrictions that we see in movement is a fascial restriction.
Interesting.
Really,
Gail, you were, or Phil?
Yeah, just add very little to that because that was an excellent explanation of fascia and how it works. But sometimes we do have issues with fascia. If you have an adhesion, dehydration, but you have an adhesion and the muscle's trying to slide, it's not going to work properly. It's not going to slide. That fascia is hanging up. So what do you have to do? We have to break that adhesion up in order to be able to move freely.
Very
And-
painful.
And it does not feel good.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, Gail, how do you, I mean, you're dealing with professional athletes, okay? And you've got to be very cognizant of, very cognizant of when they have to perform, when they're going to play a game. But how do you deal, you're in the middle of a game and somebody comes off the field and do you stretch them then? Do you
Yeah.
move them? Okay,
yeah,
talk
yeah.
to me about that.
So back up on fascia for a second. Fascia's
Okay.
gotta be hydrated.
Correct.
It has to be hydrated. It's uncomfortable because I break up a lot of fascial tissue and it gets really bad. So like you said, the adhesions, you can feel it. And people always say, what are you feeling? It is such a touch that you've got to know what you're feeling, and it's a touch. Once you figure it out and you can touch it, you can glide over it. I hate when people do the Graston method on it because it just makes it worse.
What is that?
Go ahead, Phil. Actually, go. I'm about to say something aggressive.
It is.
Oh, please.
Just like
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's
You need
a,
to hydrate.
with something special. It's a, Graston technique is part of ART, which is an active release technique.
Right, right. Active
but-
release technique, yeah.
What they do is they take a piece of metal shape and they will go
Whack it.
along.
Oh, yeah.
It feels really good.
It can tear the tissue of the fascia, and that's a whole nother process. When it gets that red, you know they've done damage. And I always said to people, why did you do that? Oh, the guy said it good for me. I said, did it feel good the next day? And he goes, no, I'm still sore. Then it went too deep. So fascia with the adhesions, you have to release it. So hydration is key because those adhesions will come in. I do release them. They are uncomfortable. But for game time, somebody comes off the field and they tighten up, we're stretching them. These guys are high-end guys. They are moving, but they're so hydrated. They're getting IVs on the sideline. They're getting oxygen on the sideline to just help them out. So we can do that type of work.
And what do you think of, like IV supplements, like
The drips?
liquid IV?
I get the
Well,
drip.
let's talk about liquid IV. Let's talk about Gatorade. I know,
So-
don't make a face of it. Okay, yeah, you did. You were scared.
Liquid IV, a lot of people do it. When I'm working with a client, that's the quickest thing, but I like Pedialyte. And we use that a lot at the NFL because it just hydrates better, or they mix it with water. Gatorade, for me, I tell my clients, if you need Gatorade, use it on the field because you're at that point of dehydration. But water is your key. Lemon, water during the week, just stick to that.
Okay,
But on field, Gatorade is probably going to be given because it has the magnesium in it and it helps them quicker to turn around. The drips are the new thing though, the IV drips.
Yeah.
I do an IV
we
drip.
have
once a
someone
month.
here at the show
Oh, I'm
doing
getting an
IV
appointment.
drips, which is
IV
great.
drips are I do an IV drip with magnesium and turmeric and everything, once a month. So that helps me. Like I did a drip before I came here. I'm gonna do a drip when I go back because I know I'm gonna be dehydrated. But the drips are great.
Interesting, very interesting. And my husband unfortunately got a massive case of COVID. And
That helps.
the reason is that like 2 years ago, I was just like, I've had like 5 vaccines. I'm done. I'm not gonna wear a mask. COVID doesn't exist anymore, you idiot. And I stopped getting my vaccines. So did my husband. 8 weeks of COVID, 8 weeks. It was horrible. And he ended up being hospitalized. And they said there's a huge risk when you get dehydrated. And it's the risk of not having enough potassium. And they actually put cushions on the side of his hospital bed because you can have I was going to say a fit. What is it? A seizure from lack of potassium in the, yeah. So I went out and I bought liquid IV and he had to take, they gave him, of course, an IV drip, but they said you need to keep him hydrated. And then, so he's drinking water all the time. They said, just put something in there. So I just put a little bit. I didn't do a whole packet because frankly, and this is not a commercial, it tastes horrible. It's horrible. And Gatorade is so much sugar in it, that's not something I want to, throw at him either. So just putting a little bit in there helped. It also, honestly, because of all the activity I was doing, I was getting cramps, because I wasn't hydrating enough. And it really helped.
Yeah.
It helped. I mean, of course, I was, I'm a once a day banana girl. Yeah, how we doing on time? Oh, guys, we have 4 minutes left. What have we not touched upon? Because we've talked about a lot. And go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I would like to touch on something about the older people training, and you touched on
Yeah.
this, the
Thank you.
sarcopenia and how to, combat that. And of course, the osteoporosis and osteopenia, by layering up those cells in the bones by strength training, you're going to stimulate that muscle growth. And I'll tell you, I even recommend taking creatine to help.
That was huge. I was shocked. I go every year to the Mayo Clinic, and you get, instead of like taking a whole afternoon off to go to the orthopod and then another full day off to sit there and wait to see the dermatologist and whatever, when you go to this executive checkup, it's like 2 days and you boom, 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 see all of them. And one of the things that was interesting is that my kidney function was a little bit lower. And she looked at me, she goes, "Are you doing creatine?" And I said, "Yeah, is that bad?" She goes, "No, it's great. It's great for you. I do it." My doctor said, "I do it. It's great for you. It just, when you do your blood samples, it's just going to show that your liver function's a little bit off. It doesn't mean that it is, it's just going to show that." So I thought that was fascinating about the creatine.
Yeah. And to add to that, for active agers, as people age, one of the first things to go tends to be power, right?
Mhm.
And that is very important because a lot of people, especially up in Canada, slip and fall on ice. And so that is a skill that often gets overlooked when training. So I think it's important to prioritize safe speed training, whether that's just like coming up quickly from a squat, maybe even a gentle jump at the top, but working up to it too, because we don't want to shock the system. So usually I start out with very supported strength training, kind of like having your training wheels on. We progress to going full range of motion. We train balance to control the chaos of life. We go into some of the power training, safe speed training, and then I train them to be prepared for the bumps of life. So we want to do reactive balance and just be able to anticipate a lot of that. And I think mixing a lot of this in, creatine and all these things could really be a good holistic approach.
Because you're not going to injure yourself walking along. You're going to injure yourself when you're like watching your grandchild, start to run across the street, and you got to grab the back of their jacket and you got to yank them back. And your back, your shoulders, everything is just going to go. And if you're on ice, you're going to slip and fall,
Yeah.
pulling that kid out of the street, and you don't care. You don't care.
We got to train to slip, to prepare to slip. We got to get into those ranges and get familiar with them and get long and strong instead of long and weak with our muscles. And that's where I think with aging, everyone really is big on flexibility, but it's not the injury shield people think it is. And it gives a false sense of reassurance, and they overlook the strength and power component.
He passes it right over.
Because I knew he had something.
Last thing,
was just-
we're at 8 o'clock here on the East Coast and 7 in Chicago and 6 in Colorado. Here we go. You close us. Bring us home.
I
Evan,
think
bring us home.
this panel is huge, right? We started with strength, stretch, recovery. All the tools are critical to allow people to become successful living their everyday life. Today, America's getting older, so we have more people that are 40 and above that are in training, and all the stuff that he said. The balance work is critical. The reactive work is critical. Strength. Remember, proprioception decreases as we age. So it's just like teenagers with weaker bones and muscles. So if we do those same sports-like training that a lot of people like at a lower intensity, it can build the strength and the vitality people like. So definitely, if you're new to this concept, I would go back and rewatch this webinar because there's a lot of nuggets dropped in here in a very short period of time.
Yeah. All right, guys. I want to thank Gail. I want to thank Brendan. I want to thank Phil, and I want to thank Evans, and I want to thank Dan, who put this all together and got us all here. And thank you guys for joining us. And we will see you next month right before the Active Aging Summit. We have 4 different conferences that are coming up that are all online. We have our Active Aging Summit. We have our Nutrition Summit. We have Live Stream Mania, which is a full online mania. And to bring it home, we've got our Aqua X Summit that's online. And then, of course, we have Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, and Boston. A few things going on. All right, stay educated. We'll see you later.
And we out.